Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and you may know me from my own YouTube channel where I cover strategy games similar to Victoria 3 extensively. Today I'm collaborating with Paradox Interactive to introduce you to a core concept about the economy in Victoria 3. Income. We'll be discussing where it comes from, what it affects, and where it goes. First, it's important to understand that the population of your nation is composed of pops of different categories. They are grouped together based on their type, and further, their culture, faith, location, and place of employment, with standard of living, accumulated wealth, and income of your people tracked along the lines of these groupings. And it's worth noting, however, that these groups are further divided in a few different ways, but what's most relevant to us today is the division between workforce and dependents. The workforce is the part of the pop group that is able to work, taking on jobs to generate the bulk of the pop group's income. Dependents are families of these workers who are not able to work for one reason or another. They might have been maimed in battle, or perhaps your nation's laws prevent them from working because they are women, or children, or perhaps too old. Dependents are still able to generate some amount of income, but they only do so for specific pop types and at a fraction of what somebody in the workforce earns. Between the workforce and the dependents, you'll see income of a few different kinds, further influenced by the pop type and wealth level. Dependent wages are, as described earlier, the marginal income generated by qualifying family members of the workforce, only available to specific pop types. Interest, meanwhile, is generated as income for people who have lent money to the government. That's you. This form of income really only comes up when your nation has used up all of its gold reserves and is relying on loans from the populace to stay afloat. Not a sustainable approach, but the moneylenders will happily collect. Finally, subsistence output, wages, and dividends are the three forms of income that the workforce generates that you'll have more direct control over right from the start of your game, and they're determined by the population type and the building at which they work. Each building in Victoria 3 employs multiple different types of pops. The types are determined by the building itself and by the production methods you've set it to use. By building specific buildings and setting their production methods in specific ways, you can have a direct influence over which people are getting job opportunities and how wealth is distributed in your nation. It's important to note, however, that just because a pop is employed doesn't mean they're making good money. While military and government employees have their wages determined by your own policies in the budget screen, private sector employees receive wages based on how well their employing building is performing and their role at the building. Owners of a building, as determined by the ownership production method, will receive dividends when the building has a positive weekly balance. Beyond that, both they and the other employees of the building will receive wages proportional to their pop type and how profitable the building is. As you can imagine, a building tries to keep wages as low as possible to maximize profit margins, but people will seek out higher wages at other buildings, and if they have the right qualifications, they'll even change their pop type to transition to a higher wage. It's not uncommon to see people migrate for better wages either. All of these factors encourage buildings to offer competitive wages as they strive to maintain the balance between a full workforce and the lowest wages they can pay in an effort to maximize their sales and resulting profits. A building that's able to sell its products at higher prices will provide higher wages and generate more income through dividends for their owners as well. Meanwhile, if a building is struggling to maintain a full workforce as a result of low productivity that in turn reduces profitability, you might want to provide government subsidies to it. This helps the business cover its costs so that wages still get paid, and while it means the national treasury is taking a bit of a hit, it might be just the boost a business needs to become successful, and it might be the difference between starvation and stability for the people who would otherwise be laid off or underpaid by the building. Subsistence output, meanwhile, comes from subsistence farms on unused arable land, providing an additional form of income. Subsistence output is generated through the sale of products directly by the peasants working the farms. It only applies to the peasants working at subsistence farms, and it is a marginal amount to help keep them afloat. While some of your population will just be staying afloat, others will earn enough to aspire for greater things. One of the major impacts of income kicks in when it is higher than a particular pop group's expenses by a significant margin. As this surplus income accumulates, you'll see the pop group make progress towards the next wealth level higher up. On the flip side, if the income is lower than expenses and there is a deficit net income, you'll see progress towards the next wealth level lower down. Wealth level is the biggest determining factor in a pop group's standard of living, and each pop group has an expectation for the lowest their standard of living should be. Going below that level might trigger significant unrest, radicalization, and revolution, especially if the pop group is politically influential. Even when above the minimum, shifts in standard of living will make radicals or loyalists out of members in the pop group depending on if the standard of living shifted down or up respectively, and a higher standard of living will encourage growth rates and the likelihood of immigration for that pop group into your nation. The wealth level of a pop group will also determine its access to education, and a higher literacy rate increases your research rates and allows pops to transition to specific types that have prerequisite literacy rates as well. And that's not all. Wealth has a direct influence on the political strength a pop might have, which in turn impacts the kinds of policies you'll be able to enact. While that's a longer conversation for a later video, as you can see, the income your population makes determines their social, political, economic, and geographical mobility, but it also impacts the expenses they might have to take on. Depending on your policies, laws, and budgetary settings, your populace will likely have to pay a variety of types of taxes. Consumption tax can be applied to a variety of products to make them more expensive to purchase while generating income for the government. The most common form of consumption tax you might be familiar with is the sin tax, an extra fee for the purchase of alcohol and other intoxicants like tobacco products. Dividend taxes, income taxes, poll taxes, land taxes, and per capita taxes are only applied if the suitable laws have been enacted, and once again, you'll want to make policy choices based on how you want the wealth to flow in your nation. Keep in mind that the actual tax you collect from your population is collected at a per state level, and each state will have a taxation capacity that represents its ability to efficiently tax the people living within. Each point of taxation capacity means the state can effectively tax 10,000 people. You can build government administration buildings to increase taxation capacity at a per state level using alternative production methods to further increase taxation capacity. Alternatively, you can research technologies that bolster taxation capacity nationwide. Do not underestimate the value of taxation capacity. If it falls behind, you might be leaving a lot of money on the table. The most significant contributor to expenses, though, is almost always going to be a pop's needs. Making sure a pop group is able to fulfill its needs while holding on to some of its income is crucial if you want to elevate the group beyond their current status, and navigating the needs of your pops is a conversation we'll set aside for next time. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you get a notification for when the next video releases. In it, we'll be discussing how needs work and how you can best fulfill them.